Bulls have continued to see growth from its young players, namely Josh Giddey and, of course, Coby White, who's starting to come along a little bit for the team as well. 6 straight games of scoring over 20 points. And the chemistry between Josh Giddey and Coby White has really stepped up over the last few games. And why that's important for the Bulls and the reported plan of being big players in the 2026 free agency, as that plan looks like it actually could be maybe more viable than I initially thought, but maybe not in the way that they're hoping. We'll talk a little bit about that, Josh Giddey's injury, and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to start off, of course, with an update to Josh Giddey's injury. Billy Donovan, Josh Giddey, everybody kind of came out afterwards and said that it's right now viewed as an ankle sprain. The severity of that ankle sprain is not known as of yet. I'm sure that the Bulls medical staff and everything will have Josh Giddey go through some scans and some testing tomorrow, as long as there's no swelling. But it could even go as far as tomorrow. Tomorrow sometime before the game. So I'm sure we'll find out an update on Josh Giddey. As soon as we find out a firm update on a timeline, we'll drop an episode. As soon as news drops, we drop. You know how we go there. But it's unfortunate because Josh Giddey was balling yesterday, career high 29 points, affecting the game in every place. And while I understand that there's been some pessimism on this run, rightfully so, from some Bulls fans, right, in some regards, the way that I look at it is very simple, right? And you guys know I try to have a even kill mind on everything. Is that, Josh Giddey right now is stepping up scoring-wise tremendously because of, the void that's left on the team, right? But I think when you also look at Josh Giddey, you got to realize is that it's not just about the number of points that he scored. It's about how he's going about it. And this is a Josh Giddey that's just been in a much more free attack mode, right? And it seems like it's much more intentional about how he's going about things as well. And that's what you like to see from Josh Giddey, right? Him and Coby last night combining for 58 points. That's, really good. They were our offense last night. Only player scoring in the range of 20, right? So that was good to see. Josh Giddey getting to the free throw line 5 times. Coby White getting to the free throw line 5 times, right? So it's good to see these guys get to the free throw line and extend their game in that way because especially when your shot's not necessarily falling the best, that's ways to do it. Josh Giddey's always been a really good rebounder, always been a really good assist guy here, even though he has to share those duties with the other point guards that are on the team. But, you just love to see that from this team. And it's unfortunate that momentum could be derailed by an ankle injury. It's the same ankle that he did, injure in the Olympics that he was nursing there. And between then and the opening of training camp, it's just really unfortunate. But, overall, wish Josh Giddey a speedy recovery for whatever it is. Let's hope that it's not, anything too severe. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Josh Giddey for a week. I wouldn't be surprised with that. But again, we'll wait till that official word comes out and we'll see where that leaves the Chicago Bulls. But like I said, yesterday we got to see growth of Coby and Josh Giddey, and both these guys are playing tremendously well. Modest Bucelis as well. Even though he didn't have double-digit points, he was 4-9 from the field, was +4 in yesterday's game. Also, and you just I know that people don't like hearing this, right? And most fans don't have time to watch every single game, every single possession, and that's perfectly fine. But for some of these players, like Zach Collins and Modest Bucelis yesterday, had really good games that didn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet, right? And that's what you like to see, right? And this team is still finding that and playing with, I should say, that identity that they forged since the All-Star break. And that's a really good thing there, right? And that's how the team is really starting to get into a different place, right? And Coby talked about his growth after the game, and he said this: everybody's journey is different. Some players are blessed to figure it out right away. Like for my draft, Ja, Zion, Trey, Luka, they were really good when they came into the league. I wasn't very good when I came into the league. I had a lot to learn. I knew that. For me, it's all about humbling myself, where I look in the mirror and say, I have to get better. I have to be stronger. I have to be more physical. I have to figure out who I am as a player. It was hard to humble myself and ask those questions, but it needed to be done. And that's a really good perspective to have as a young player, right? Is that not everybody's path is linear. And I know we like to think that it is. Like, typically you like to think, hey, year one, you show a little something, you build off that in year two. By year three, we're rocking and rolling. And that was not Coby White's path, right? We really didn't see tremendous growth from Coby until it was year 5, right? Now we saw some things, like it's not like we didn't see flashes from Coby, right? 13 points per game his rookie season, 15 points per game his second season, 12 points per game his third season. Then he had that 9.7 point per game season. And last year saw a big boom, right? 19 points per game last year. And he's actually averaging the same 19.1 points per game again now this season as well, right? And so you like seeing that path and that focus from Coby. Coby understanding that he had to go and find his game, right? And that's something that happens and plagues with a lot of players, right? You look at how Coby had to find his game. You pair that and look at a player like Patrick Williams on this same team that hasn't really found his game yet. Or maybe he has found his game and that's just the level he's going to be at, which, okay, cool, right? So Coby playing better over this stretch is real, right? He has clearly been playing better. He's clearly found a little bit of rhythm. And like I've always said with Coby's a player that when he comes back from injury, it's always slow, right? Coby's not the guy that immediately hits it right back from free agency and finds his efficiency or anything like that. That's just not how Coby White is. But when you look at Coby White's performance, specifically like over the last 10 games, he's right back to being basically what we kind of expected him to be coming into the season. 23.4 points per game over the last 10 games, right? He's doing that on 47% shooting from the field, 32% shooting from three. So still not necessarily the best, right? But he is averaging 4 free throws per game, hitting that at 92% clip as well. Has a 60% true shooting percentage, 1.5 steals per game over that time as well, which is really freaking good for a player like Coby White. So you're seeing that, right? And so as Coby continues to draw more fouls, right, drawing those 4 fouls per game, he's on average over the last 10 games, and the Bulls in 5-5 over that last 10. That's really good for Coby. Over the last 5 games, he's averaging 29 points per game. And he's doing that, getting that efficiency back up to almost 50% shooting from the field at 39.4% and 34% from three. So, still a steal per game, right? So he's still doing those things. He's drawing 5 fouls per game over the last 5 games. So Coby's starting to find a better balance, right? And this season has really been a mixed bag for Coby. And it's still shown some of the inconsistencies that have plagued Coby White's entire career in the NBA, right? And you want Coby to become a more consistent player. And I've said it before, Coby White is still one of the biggest X factors going forward into the Bulls free agency, right? Because depending on what you do with Coby, you have to kind of feel like you're making a bit of a decision on Coby this offseason. Because, of course, you can trade him at the trade deadline. That's always an option. But if the Bulls are looking to move Coby, that's probably going to come early in free agency, right? Because the team's going to want to get him in there as soon as possible. Now, I mean, as an expiring contract, teams can also call on Coby. But, if they have some long-term things, they're probably going to want the most look at Coby in their building with their team as long as possible. And if Coby is going to be part of the future, the Bulls kind of have to have that inkling or not then as well. And again, it could come down to what they draft and what they do in the draft. Still think they should take best player available in the draft because we need talent, right? More so than just a specific position. But, we'll see what the Bulls do. And Coby White growing as a player as well, finding a better balance. And I think if Josh Giddey does end up missing some time with the ankle injury, which I think at minimum, you're probably still looking at him missing a game, right? Because it's going to be some swelling there. There's going to be some tenderness there. I think at the best case scenario, you're looking at him missing a game. Worst case, you're probably looking at him missing a week or more, right? This is Coby's opportunity to see how consistent can you be, because you're probably going to go back to being more of a point guard, right? Even if you're not lining up at the point guard position, a lot of things are going to go through you. So, that's what we're going to get to see from Coby, and Coby needs to take this opportunity and really, try to make it and see what he can be with it, right? But outside of that, of course, we know that Josh Giddey's been on an amazing run. Manas Busilis starting has been really good, and he's figuring out his game, drawing some really good defensive assignments, and becoming a better defender. That's the one thing that's really, still a net negative on defense, but I think overall, like, you're starting to see Manas Busilis understand things a lot better, right? And this is a team that's really it's forged an identity over this little bit of time, and that's really good to see from a team that, didn't have that. We didn't have that, just period, point blank. We did not have that identity. And, for now, over the remaining part of the season, for us to have a little bit of it, great. right? Have a little bit of it. But, the Bulls won the third game in a row. I know my tanking fans are really not happy by that. The Bulls still sit now with the ninth worst record. They had the eighth worst record before, which is I know is gonna piss a lot of Bulls fans off. Their odds now for the top 4 pick is dropped to 20% from 26%. Their odds for number 1 overall pick is dropped from 6% to 4.5%. It is what it is there, man. At the end of the day, this team, we've told you before, if you're still expecting these players to go out and try to lose games, you're just lost in the sauce. These players are going to keep trying to win. These players are still going to, because again, they're playing for their spots, right? Players don't try to lose so that they can potentially get somebody to take their spot. The Bulls have 17 games remaining on the season. 17. And it's going to go by really fast. Each of the next weeks, we're basically playing 4 games a week. This time period is going to fly by, right? We're basically exactly 30 days away from our last game, a little bit more than that, from our last game of the season, right? So between then and now, you got players that are still trying to figure things out. You got a team that's forging an identity, and you got players that are trying to fight and prove whether they deserve a spot on this team or fight for the next NBA contract and like Trey Jones and see what happens there with him, right? So as we continue and go through this, like the one thing with the Bulls finding their chemistry, right? Modest Bucilla's finding his role. If Josh Giddey and Coby White find their balance together as a backcourt, right? On top of that, if you draft well next year in the 2025 draft and you get a good pick, we talked about before that the Bulls' plan right now is to be a player in the 2026 free agency, right? According to Spot Rack, however you say it, right now the Bulls are slated to have $128 million in available cap space. You look at that, they only have 5 players under contract over that time as well. Patrick Williams, Jalen Smith are under contract. Modest Bucilla's is under contract. Lonzo Ball, if they pick up his option. Josh Giddey, right? Julian Phillips, not Josh Giddey yet. Julian Phillips. That's your 5 players that are under contract for you as of right now, right? Now, the Bulls have some decisions that they need to make. Josh Giddey, Coby White, Ayo Dosunmu being the biggest question there. Now, the Bulls have $128 million projected at that point in time. If they find a destination for Lonzo Ball that can get $10 million off that books, he has a player option, so they may not even pick up that player option. If Josh Giddey even signs for the $30 million, that leaves 90. If you sign Ayo and Coby to another $30 million each, right, that still leaves you $30 million to play with. Now, I don't think those guys are going to get that up front, and if the Bulls decide to do so, they can also structure those contracts in different ways to where they can maximize the cap space, then front load it a little bit, whatever they want to do, right? But you're looking at the Bulls at most having $128 million. They can have as low as around, let's say 25 to $30 million, right? But that gets you that leaves you some pretty big room to be some players, right? Leaves you room to use your room, except your mid-level exception. Leaves you some room to sign some players outright because it's true cap space, right? You also have, I'm sure the Bulls will make some trades by then. They'll probably have some trade. Their trade exceptions now will be expired by then. But the Bulls will have tools at their disposal. And if they structure things right, let's say if you want to try to go for a free agent, right? Especially, like I said, restricted free agents are probably the thing that the Bulls should really look to focus on the most in 2026 if they want to be players, right? To outbid other teams and to take a risk on another team's free agent. Yes, of course, they have the right to match it, but you want to try to do that, right? And even if it's not, let's say it's not let's go after a big-time free agent. You know what they could do? Much like the Bulls did when they struck out on LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh, is that then you could add quality depth around your team, right? Especially if you built your team in the right place. Let's say the Bulls over the 2025 draft go out and get a center. Let's say in the 2026 draft they get a power forward to pair next to Modest Bucilla's, right? At that point in time, you're looking at adding depth and adding quality to really make yourself, and especially if Modest, Josh Giddey, the players that they draft in 25, 26, if those guys really are starting to show some flashes, there could be some teams that want to join a young core. Now, I don't think that you're going to get the upper echelon top free agents that are superstars right now to want to come to the Chicago Bulls unless you start winning playoff series between now and then. But I do think you can get a young guy that maybe wants more of an opportunity to come and join a team that may fit with them, right? So that's still the Bulls' plans. And I think that when you look at the Bulls' plans in that, it really still hinges on how many answers do you already have on your team. That's the biggest question there. How many answers do you already have on your team, right? Is Josh Giddey your point guard? Is your answer at point guard? If yes, okay, then you have that. Is Modest Busalis your answer at one of your forward spots? If yes, okay, bam, that's locked in, right? Is the center that you draft, Kamal Malowik, Asa Newell, Derek Queen, Danny Wolf, is that your answer at center? If yes, okay, great, right? If you have guys that are starting to look like answers at positions that matter, that's where people start looking at it and saying, hey, I can go to that team and we can play together and we can take off to where we need to go, right? And that's where the Bulls. Now, it's still a risky plan, right? But free agency is always somewhat in the plan. And like I said, you're not really necessarily looking at free agency to necessarily be the home run swing, but you may be looking at it to be what solidifies, right? Sometimes a double is what you need, right? And so that's the case there. And so the Bulls, if this chemistry that seems like it's building is legit, right? And we're going to have a whole entire season to really see. We're going to go into next season with no Zach LaVine, possibly no Nikola Vucevic, right? With even more young players on this roster still trying to figure it out. If you have a season of them playing tough like they've been playing this season, right? And yeah, sure, they may not have a lottery pick next year. Maybe it's outside the lottery. Maybe it's at the end of the lottery, right? We'll see where it goes. But if this team continues to play the way that it has been, and health has to be a part in that as well, right? Now, we've seen players join teams where the health has been quite questionable. Teams, people always join the 76ers. People have joined the Clippers, right? But if you have a team that's starting to look like it's starting to find some of those answers in players in that spots, that's where the thing starts. You start having a better chance, right? I still think it's a risky move. I want to be clear. You cannot put all your eggs in the free agency of 2026 basket. You just can't. You can't do that. And if that is what AK and Eversley are doing and putting all their eggs in that and just thinking by the nature of them being Chicago, somebody's going to want to come and play here, they're going to get a rude awakening, right? But you have to continue to build this thing out. You have to continue to have a team that looks like it's on the upswing. And if you can do that, that's where you start trying to find your rhythm. That's where you try to start finding your balance. That's where you start, turning some eyes on what the possibility of your team can be. Right now, your own fan base wholeheartedly doesn't always believe in what the direction of this team is. How can you expect to sell a player on that, to willingly come here? So you have to start finding, that puts the onus really on AK and Eversley to do better than what they have done the last couple of years as far as adding clarity and direction to this team. So, the plan of 2026 is all fine and dandy. I'm not mad at the 2026 plan at all. I'm not mad at that. But it's how you get there and what you do between now and that journey, right? Can you make yourself look like a front office that's starting to figure some things out, that maybe lost their way or wanted to try to continue with veterans and is starting to come out the other side of that with young players and really starting to find their way in their direction? Maybe that's the case. Maybe that's what you can start finding, right? Because I tell you what, if this keeps being this thing where this team is still doing what they're doing now, right, and looking like a team that's like, they got some things going on, but there's still some big question marks here. That's what you're looking at. So we'll see what the team does, man. I think overall, I'm grateful for the way that this young team has been playing. I'm grateful for the way that this young team has been fighting. I'm grateful for all that because that has been something fun. It's been special. It's been great to watch, to be quite honest with you, right? It's been great to watch these young guys go out there and figure it out. And tanking or not, all that type of stuff, I'm at this point overthrowing shade at the pro tankers. It is what it is, right? This team is going to figure out, is going to fall the way that it's going to fall. But you have to start operating. We have to start looking like a franchise that is on the way upswing. And Josh Giddey, Coby, Modest, Zach Collins, to say that as well, any young player, these guys continue to be part of that picture. Ayo Dosunmu, right, when he comes back next year, how does he look? Right after his season ended early with injury, right? That's going to be another thing that we are really looking at as well. Like, how well does Ayo Dosunmu play over that time, coming back next year? And, there's still reason to be excited about this Bulls team. And I don't know if I would have said that 6 months ago. There's still reason to be excited about this Bulls team, not just because of the draft picks coming in, but because of the guys that we have on this roster. And we got to hope that and I'll say this, unless we want to be a bad team for the next 6 years, like I said, root for the guys. I still don't understand the actively rooting against some of your players, right? I don't understand that. For the life of me, some things aren't meant for us to understand. and maybe I just need to let that go. But I think, as we're seeing these young guys play and play tough and play hard, I'm grateful for it. And so we'll see how the season, 17 games left, y'all. 17 games left. And this season's over with. And we go to get into draft analysis and do a deep dive into that. So that's going to be fun, as it always is. But make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. BullCentralPod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like we like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.